Hey everybody, welcome to the studentloanjustice.org live stream for Monday, October 19th, I believe. We are here in getting colder Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin actually. To those of you who are new, welcome. We're glad that you found us. What took you so long? We are literally the oldest, largest, and really the only true grassroots citizens group fighting for student loan justice. We've been around for 15 years now. We've been featured top story on 60 Minutes, in the Los Angeles Times, the New York Times, on NPR, PBS, Vice News, Rolling Stone magazine. You name it, we've probably been interviewed by them at one point or another. In the past 3 weeks or a month, I'm very glad to report we've been on Fox Business, on Fox News, in Newsweek, Heavy.com, Yahoo News, and many other places, including dozens of local television stations across the country. So, we are fighting for the cancellation of all federally owned student loans by executive order. That's 85% of all student debt. We are also fighting for the return of bankruptcy protections to all of the loans that will remain. In other words, all of the loans that the president cannot cancel directly by executive order. Whether it's President Trump or the next president. It turns out, and you won't hear this almost anywhere, but it turns out that the only real way to actually cancel loans is by executive order. Every loan cancellation program, plan, proposal that you hear from Congress, from presidential candidates, from Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, good people all, and others, unfortunately, they are all doomed to fail. Because anything that goes through Congress has got to be paid for. So you get into the game of having to cut other programs, having to raise taxes. In other words, having to come up with $1 for every dollar in loans, student loans, that you cancel. So that's just nonsense and ridiculous. Congress is not going to pass that law, and whatever Congress might pass will be a very lame shadow of what was intended. And the Department of Education, we can say with confidence, will bureaucratize whatever Congress gives them to death, because the Department of Education has shown time and again that they have no desire or intentions of actually canceling any loans. So, for example, we're seeing the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program where 99% of the people who thought they were getting their loans canceled last year found out the hard way that they had been disqualified out of the program for one reason or another. So, folks, all those loan cancellation proposals we're hearing are worthless. They're not worth anything. The president, whether it's this president or the next, can cancel all federally owned student loans by executive order. He can do it tomorrow. He can do it without needing congressional approval. He can do it without needing one dime of congressional appropriation, be that from cutting other programs or raising taxes or what have you. In fact, not one penny would even change hands. So the president has it in his power, given to him and the Secretary of Education, has all the power they need to cancel student loans with nothing more than a stroke of the pen, an executive order. Not one dime has to be raised. And by the way, in this period of fiscal stimulus that we find ourselves in, where we are adding trillions to the national debt, the president can cancel all federally owned student loans without adding one red nickel to the national debt. So there is no better way to stimulate the economy. Quite frankly, I'm shocked that this wasn't the first thing they did in this current pandemic. Really, this is the low-hanging fruit on the fiscal stimulus tree. So, folks, here we are. It is, as I said, Monday night. We are getting very close to the election now. We are pushing everybody in our group, and that's like over 800,000 people now, to stick around and hang with this group, check in on this group every single day. We're doing crowd multitasking. So every day we're asking everyone out there to do something very simple. Like today, for example, we're asking everyone to send tweets and also direct messages to both the Trump and Biden campaigns, telling them to either pledge to cancel all federally owned student loans by executive order, in the case of Biden, because he's not president yet, or in the case of President Trump, to actually execute that executive order to cancel all federally owned student loans. Now, this is the wild west of politics, folks. The student loan issue is now on the table. 4 years ago, we had no one to vote for. Neither Hillary nor Trump had anything. This time around, Joe Biden is at least talking about student loan cancellation. And if you believe the press, it sounds pretty good, certainly if you went to a public college. So the veil has been pierced, and this issue is now in play. Here's the key point that you need to know. There are 55 million people in the country with student loans or who are co-signed on them. And 80% of them were never going to be able to pay their loans, even before the pandemic. So 4 out of 5 of all student loan borrowers are losing sleep over their loans. And this was true even back in February. So that is enough. That's 44 million people out of the 55 million. That is nearly enough people to elect a president outright. And right now, I have to say, most of those votes are going to go to Joe Biden, all things being equal. What he is promising is not impressive at all. And as I said, his loan cancellation program is not worth the paper it's written on. But you know, in many ways, that really actually doesn't matter that much, because when people hear loan cancellation, and they also hear that Joe Biden is claiming to be fighting for the return of bankruptcy protection to student loans, which again is not really believable. It looks to me very much like he is only talking about private student loans. But nonetheless, that's what the voters hear. And so right now, Joe Biden, this election, there's almost no way he can lose if Donald Trump does nothing. So the ball is in President Trump's court. So I would just ask you, look over there or maybe down there or somewhere on this live stream, and you can see very detailed instructions for what we're hoping that you will do. And by the way, if you have any questions or comments as we go forward here tonight, throw them out. I'm very happy to respond to your questions, comments, editorial opinions, and otherwise in stream. Hey, W. Westmoreland Baker says, no, he's not. I suspect you're talking about Joe Biden. Oh, I'm trying 3-point lighting here tonight, folks, so bear with me. Yeah, I suspect you're talking about Joe Biden. And Joe Biden, his plan sounds good, but we've been doing this for 15 years, folks. 15 years. And we can read between the lines. We can see cleverly crafted language designed to make us think one thing when, in fact, the reality is the other. And I can tell you that as it stands now, Joe Biden, we cannot endorse Joe Biden, put it that way. We set a very low bar for what we would need to see from a candidate in order to endorse them. And that is a pledge to return bankruptcy protections to student loans by executive order, not through Congress, which any president can go, well, you know, I tried. Congress wouldn't pass the bill. They didn't bring it to my desk, so what can I tell you? And that is what Joe Biden's pledge about bankruptcy looks like. I might also add, and this is very important, it looks very, very much like, and go to Joe Biden's website and tell me if you disagree, but it is quite clear from the language in that website that everything they say about bankruptcy is couched in the context only of private student loans. So private student loans are like 8% of all student loans, right? Federal student loans, federally owned, federally guaranteed, that's like 90% of or more of student loans. So it looks to me like Joe Biden is pulling some of the same tricks that were played on us in years past by Beltway swamp, for lack of a better word. And that's not Trump's word, by the way. That's my word. I've been using that for decades now. Think tanks, little creatures that scurry in and around the Department of Education, defenders of the federal student loan system. So you heard it here first. I wish that everybody with student loans in this country was listening to what I was saying so they would be far better informed, but whatever. The point is, Biden is going to walk away with this election, I think, if Trump does nothing on the student loan issue. So whether you like Trump or hate him, this is the ball is in Trump's court right now. Trump could return bankruptcy protections to student loans tomorrow by executive order. Trump could cancel all federally owned student loans tomorrow by executive order. And really, if you think about it, this is a big government monstrosity. It is a nationally threatening beltway, big government monstrosity. I'm just going to repeat that. Something that no conservative should like, right? I mean, the federal government is profiting somewhere between $50 and $100 billion a year on this program. And this for a lending system that initially was rolled out and by Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1965, who said that the loans would be free of interest. Well, what happened to that? I could say a lot of other things about this lending program that would prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this is indeed a big government, nationally threatening, and even unconstitutional lending system. It's dangerous. This lending system has been weaponized against the American people. And whether you're Republican or a Democratic, you should be inclined to agree. By all reasonable metrics and measures, this is now a catastrophically failed lending system. And I do not use those words lightly. Catastrophically failed lending system. Of everybody walking around with student loans right now, my best estimate is that 75, 80, or maybe even more % are going to default on their loans. They're just going to. The class of 2004, we know the default rate is 40%. And the class of 2004 was only borrowing 1/3 of what people are borrowing today. I could go on, but just maybe take my word for it, or just listen to what I just said. That should be proof enough. I could also say that before this pandemic, 80%, 4 out of 5 of all federal student loan borrowers were never going to be able to repay their loans. So think about it. The default rate for subprime home mortgages, remember those failed loans? The default rate for those loans was only 20%. Well, we are at 75, 80% now. So do I have to really say anything more to prove to you that this is a catastrophically failed lending system? I hope not. So President Trump could and should do the conservative thing and put this lending system out of its misery. I mean, if you have to kill the lending program and maybe go back to direct university funding for a year while you figure out, what the next financing model for higher education is going to be, it's worth doing because these loans cannot continue. They cannot. Personally, I would say maybe put the colleges on a bit of a diet, frankly. Instead of shelling out $100 billion a year to the colleges, maybe ratchet that down to maybe $60 billion and do it in grants instead of predatory loans on our backs. Something like that, because it's just ridiculous. The colleges cannot be allowed to continue to charge these gargantuan, ridiculous, fairy tale-y high prices for their educations. It's just ridiculous. The colleges probably should be charging around half as much. So I'm being pretty generous when I say to cut them down to 70% of what they would have otherwise gotten through the lending system. But I would say even less, maybe like 50. I would even say like 40 or 30%, and let the chips fall where they may. There's a lot of colleges that probably need to be shut down, quite frankly. They are badly harming the great majority of their students rather than helping them because of this lending system. So Debbie Westmoreland Baker says, they hope we default. That's where the money is made, not on people who continue to pay every month. You know, that is one of the perverted, sinister, hidden, dirty little secrets about the federal student loan program. You know, the servicers like Sallie Mae, Navient, Nelnet, others, they can make about $5 a month on a healthy loan where you pay on time according to schedule. $5 a month. However, if a loan goes into default, they can turn that loan into easily double. You know, they can double the size of the loan. And they can come after you with their collection companies. And for example, on many loans, they can get you to rehabilitate your loan, which means pay and pay and pay for 10 months, get the loan back into good standing. And the people that make you do that, in other words, Navient, Nelnet, Sallie Mae, all those companies I just mentioned, they can get a 16%, or is it 17? 16% commission on the value of the new, much larger rehabilitated loan that you sign for. So let's say you owe $100,000, you default on your loan, okay? Or no, let's say you owe $50,000, you default on your loan. Penalties and fees and interest and blah, blah, blah. Pretty soon it's a $80,000, $90,000 loan. Well, they convince you to rehabilitate that loan, and they slap on more fees and more packaging fees and blah, 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 blah. You sign for a brand new, shiny, undefaulted, rehabilitated $100,000 loan, okay? So that gets a 16% commission to whoever got you to do that. Navient, Nelnet, Sallie Mae, Great Lakes, whoever, FIA, Fed Loan Servicing. That's $16,000 commission in their pockets right then and there. I'm not even together. So, if you're a servicer, would you rather make $5 a month on a borrower over 10 years? That's like $600 you make over 10 years. Would you rather that? Or would you rather that borrower default on their loans and after, who knows, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, certainly usually not 10 years, probably closer to 5, get a $16,000 payday? Huh, $600, $16,000 in half the time. Well, obviously, you'd rather the latter than the former. So there is a built-in, very strong incentive for these servicers to want to baffle, bamboozle, confuse you, irritate you, piss you off, give you bad information, give you the runaround, make you throw up your hands and say, fuck you people, and walk away, and your loans default. They love that. It's just terrible. And by the way, folks, this is what happens when you take bankruptcy protections and statutes of limitations away from a lending instrument. It strips the borrower of all of their power. You know, there's a very good reason the Founding Fathers called for uniform bankruptcy laws ahead of the power to declare war and raise an army in the Constitution. And this student loan exception to the wisdom of those men is exactly what they were afraid of. And make no mistake, folks, we don't have to take this shit, pardon my French. Student loans are the only type of loan that have been uniquely stripped of constitutional bankruptcy protections. Student loans are the only type of loan to be uniquely stripped of statutes of limitations. This is an illegitimate, unconstitutional, indefensible, and now, certainly in the wake of this pandemic, a catastrophically failed lending system. It demands immediate and drastic action. You know, we are fighting for bankruptcy protections for the loans that will remain when the president cancels them. But at this point, just returning bankruptcy protections to these loans, that's not enough. That's not enough. All that's going to guarantee is that probably 20, 25 million of those 55 million student loan borrowers who were never going to be able to repay their loans are going to wind up having to file for bankruptcy. Now, in an average year in this country, about a million, a little less than a million people file for bankruptcy for all loans. So, does it really make sense to overwhelm the courts like that? No, it does not. What makes sense is canceling these loans. Do it gracefully, do it ungracefully, but get it done. And by the way, as I said before, Congress ain't going to do it. It ain't going to happen through Congress. It's only going to happen through the president. And whether you're a Trump fan or a Trump hater, a Biden fan, Biden hater, honestly, Donald Trump has it in his power, President Trump has it in his power right now today to make this happen. That's why we are pushing him. And, you know, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there at that tonight, folks. I've gone 20 minutes. I think I've said what I need to say. But check back on this group on a daily basis. If you are serious about getting these loans canceled, then you will check back every day and do these very simple, usually 1-minute tasks that we're asking everybody to do. You know, we've got 800,000 people on our platforms now. That is a very large muscle to flex. I hope that we can get up to 1 million signatures in the next few days on our petition. But for sure, look over there, look down, look over there. Contact Trump, contact Biden, and we'll have another chore for you tomorrow. You know, are getting your student loans gone not worth a minute of your time every day from here to the election? I think they are. So I hope that you will do that. And I hope that you will tell everyone you know with student loans, or maybe even those without, about this group. Because as I said, we are the only group fighting for the real solution to this problem, which is canceling all student loans, and which is doing it by executive order, not by Congress. So the very last thing I'll say is do everything you can to promote our petition. We've got 733,000 signatures now. We want to get up to 1 million as quickly as possible. That will help us in many ways, particularly with the media. This is the critical time, folks. So don't blow it. Help us fight. It will make you feel better. We are on the right side. We are on the morally high ground side. We are on the constitutional side. The only people against us are bad people, swamp people, people who are making free money off of our backs from this parasitic, predatory, and now catastrophically failed lending program. Don't give them the pleasure. Help us fight instead. You'll be glad you did. Push that petition. Spend an hour, 2 hours a day for the next 2 weeks through the election for sure, and really even beyond. And let's get this done sooner rather than later. Okay, folks, thank you very much. Good luck. God bless, and Godspeed. Oh, and if you could donate, that would be really good as well. StudentLoanJustice.org/support. We need it right now. Thanks.